Hey guys, you want to win your own free box set coming out for the new Destroyer Kings? Check out the link below. We're giving one away.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Attack on TCG. Fluff here, bringing you guys another half-exciting deck profile. Back when Clash of Fates came out, we experimented a little bit with the red Frieza stuff and the green Goku stuff. There was one comment, I can't remember who it was, but it kind of made me think that maybe we weren't doing the red Frieza stuff right. And they were absolutely right. But we had just started messing with the set. We didn't really get to mess with it before that. We just tried to make something with the stuff that was in the set that included like the Ginyu Force, and we'll go back and we'll touch on the Ginyu Force the way that it was. But I wanted to go back and kind of look at something a little more meta consistent for the red. PPG did really well at the guys at PPG did really well at Atlanta with a build very similar to this. I think there's one or two cards different, but I've got to play this deck. I'm actually really impressed with it, and it really reminds me of like early Storm variants and things like that. Maybe not quite as like when turn 2 or 3 aggressive, but it's definitely super aggressive early, and if your opponent lets you get into the late game, you will just punish them. So let's get into the deck. It is a mono red Frieza deck that utilizes the red Frieza swap, but for the leader, we're using Frieza, the Metamorphic threat. This guy is pretty cool. I really like his effect. Bancroft's not a huge fan of it, and I completely get why. It's really easy to waste a life and miss 2 cards on his front side, so on his front side, you choose 1 card from your life, add it to your hand, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, and then add 1 red Frieza's Army card to your hand. The other goes on the bottom of your deck. Or if you got no red Frieza Army cards, they both go to the bottom of your deck. Now, that's a huge cost to potentially miss something, but in this card's defense, it's Self-Awakening, and it's also potential resource retrieval. So that's awesome. He doesn't get a draw when he attacks, so if you want to slow roll your opponent, you can, because you're not motivated to recklessly swing to get draws. When your life is at 4 or less, you draw 1 card, retap an energy, and flip it over. Then on the backside, we have Frieza, the Metamorphic threat. This guy's pretty awesome. He's super defensive. My biggest problem is that you have to get rid of a card on your side of the field to utilize his back-end effect, and I think that's where this card falls a little short, especially if you're in the middle of the swap line and that's all you've got on the field, or if you don't really have anything that you want to pop to get his effect off. So when he attacks, you do draw 1, but then the other, you choose 1 red Frieza Army card, battle card in your area and KO it. Then choose 1 card in your hand, place it in your drop area. This card gains 5,000 power until the end of your opponent's next turn, which is kind of like a pseudo Sensu Bean in the effect that he becomes extra defensive during that. But having to pop a card is extremely risky unless you're popping something like Zarbon, because we're not playing the Dodoria in this, we're not playing other cards that might benefit from getting destroyed type of thing. So that's the leader. I really like this leader. I think it's one of the more slept-on leaders in this set. I think it's incredibly utilitarian and just a good, solid leader. And I think we need more leaders in the game like this, honestly. It's healthy for the game. Now, kind of getting into the deck itself, we do run 4 of the Frieza Overture to Battle. These are the 1-drop beginning the swap combo line. These guys don't do anything in particular to protect themselves, but they are a free swap to a Frieza with an energy cost of 2. When you play this card from your hand, choose 1 of your leader cards or red battle cards other than this card, and it gains 5,000. Usually going to boost your leader with this guy. He's awesome late games getting back into the swap engine. He's awesome for boosting up something late game to make sure that an attack goes through. But other than that, he's just got the free swap too, which is nothing to snuff at. So this guy's essential because he gets our swap line going. So we run 4 of those. And then the next step of that is the evolutionary process Frieza. We do run 4 of those. This is the next step. He's got swap 3 for 1 red energy, and you play a red Frieza with an energy cost of 3. This guy was needlessly bad, in my opinion. During your opponent's turn, this card gains minus 5,000, which makes him particularly vulnerable. He doesn't have barrier. This is definitely the weak link in the swap process, and I actually don't even like to play this guy out unless I know during that turn or immediately in my next turn I can go into the third stage of this. The third stage at least has barrier and is pretty useful. This guy is really only good for playing, swinging, and swapping immediately back out. So even if that means leaving the 1-drop on the Frieza a turn and then immediately coming out with this guy, swinging with him, and then immediately into the third. But I think this is the weak link. This is the part where it's really easy to beat Red Frieza. If you're up against Red Frieza, hitting this guy is the absolute way to completely stall them, because they do only run 4. If you get rid of all these guys, they're not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy for them to go into their 3rd or 5th stages without paying high costs for it. So as a red swap player, you want to just make sure that this guy doesn't linger too much. He's in and out. He does what he needs to do. Otherwise, like in the show, Piccolo will beat him up, and you have to avoid that. The third step, we're going to be looking at Frieza, the Storm of Blows. This is probably the next best, next to the 5-drop, as he should be. Sorry, it's kind of a little blurry there. Working on fixing that for you. But barrier, swap 5, 2 red energy, goes into a red Frieza of 5 or less. Then his auto, when you play this card, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with 2,000 or less and KO it. That's a really awesome spot removal effect. He can be played from your hand for 3, so it's not terrible, or you can play into him from the 2-drop for 1 red energy, and then he plays into the 5-drop for 2. This guy's amazing. He's got barriers, so you can afford to sit on him and protect him if you need to, because your opponent's not going to be able to just spot removal him very easily. Though there's more and more in the game that ignores barrier, it's still not something to completely worry about if you have to leave him for a turn on the field. So we do run 4 of those. And then kind of the coup de grace of the Frieza swap line being the 5-drop final showdown Frieza. We do run 4 of those because we want to be able to see these early enough to be able to take advantage of his effect. He is a 5-drop. Red, though you only have to play him with 2 red if you're coming from the 3. He has crit, double strike, 25,000, auto once per turn, and this is what makes him beautiful. Super stun, and can really drive your opponent to make bad plays, just trying to get around this. When your opponent declares to play a battle card or activates a skill that would play a battle card, if your leader is a red Frieza's army, you may choose 1 card from your life, place it in your drop area. If you do, the battle card is played with its skills negated for the duration of the turn. So the big limiter on this is you have to rely on having available life. And honestly, every time that I've seen this deck lose, it's because the player piloting the deck, whether it's been me or another person, has used his effect to drop them to 1 life to stop a turn, and then just loses the next turn because they can't adequately defend themselves. But this guy's an awesome crit double strike for essentially 2 red energy at the very least, plus a little bit of disruption if it gets to that point. This, I think, is the card that makes the deck hyperly successful, especially in the mid to late game type of scenario. So nothing to scoff at. I think it's an awesome card. I really want to see them do more with this, give an alternative to this card, or maybe a card that evolves from this card. You know, maybe give us the big muscular Frieza, or give us a golden Frieza that comes from this. I don't know. I want to see more with the red swap stuff in future sets. Kind of a win more condition in this deck is the Frieza Army Reborn. It is an 8-drop that becomes a 5-drop. When your life is 2 or less, you can reduce the cost of this by 3, making it a 5 red cost play. So if you're splashing any energies, it potentially becomes a turn 6, or if you're playing mono red, it is a turn 5 play. This card is hyper devastating. When you play it, your opponent reveals their hand. You choose 1 card from your opponent's hand, puts places in the drop area. Then you choose all of your opponent's battle cards with 4,000 or less power, ignoring them and KOing them. I think this card's going to get even better with Destroyer Kings coming out next month. As of right now, though, this card is just win more. I don't think that you have to play this card in order for this deck to be wildly successful. In fact, I've seen this deck play this card a few times. Last week, Bancroft did a deck profile on a cooler deck that consistently played this card. This deck does not consistently play this card. So if you want a way to consistently play this card, have a look at the cooler video that Bancroft did last week. Super cool deck that just focuses on being able to play Frieza Army Reborn. But still, a cool secret rare, super pretty, quad strike, 40,000, nothing to snuff at. If you can get it out, you're probably going to win, especially considering how late this deck has to play this card. That's it for our Frieza Army stuff. So now we're kind of going into the rest of the deck. The rest of the deck I'm not going to pull up as close to the camera, but we've got our super combo, Strike Force Jace. This being one of only 2 of the Ginyu Force that we play in this deck. I'm sure you already know the other one. But Strike Force Jace being our super combo, when your life is at 5 or less, it gains 10,000 combo power, plus your opponent, or you draw whenever you super combo with it. So, gotta have 4 super combos in the game until they come up with an alternative or a reason to not play super combos. You will play 4. Next, at a 4 of, we do play Zarbon, Hidden Potential. This guy is really cool, and I thought one of the slightly looked over until people started realizing how well he combos with Ginyu. When this card is KO'd, draw 1 card, then choose one of your opponent's battle cards. It gets minus 15,000 for the duration of the turn. Just a super, super, super awesome card. Really do like this. I want to see more happen with this card. I'd love to see a card that evolves from this one. Just to kind of add to it, or maybe one that plays itself when this card gets sent to the drop zone. But just a really cool card. We do run 4 of those. It kind of gets us where we need to be. And then we're looking at our next, this is a 3 of. We run 3 of the Body Change Ginyus. These guys are awesome. Equally as good as the 5-drop Frieza as far as utility in the mid to late game. For 3 energy, you play it. When you play this card, all of your Ginyu Force cards in your battle area gain 10,000 power for the turn. He does not exclude himself, so when you play him, he gets 10,000 power. Activate main, place this card in the owner's drop area, place this card in your opponent's battle area from its owner's drop area with its skills negated. Then choose to 1 of your opponent's battle cards with a power cost of 20,000 or less. Then other than this card, and gain control of it and switch it to active mode. So this is really awesome. If your opponent has something that's stronger, this can be comboed with the Zarbon to reduce its power level, and then using Body Change Ginyu to grab it. So you can play Ginyu, attack with him, use his effect, grab something. There's a multitude of different cards that this thing can grab and take full advantage of. So I think this is an awesome thing. We do only run 3 because his effect can be a little clunky at times, and we really want to focus on the Frieza stuff. But it's in here. It's super awesome. It stuns your opponent and gives you nothing but advantage. Now, one of the things that the PPG guys did was they played 4 of this card. I didn't see a need for 4. Dende, new to the job. I get why it's in here. Auto, when you play this card, draw 1. That on its own makes him worth a spot in the deck. But then activate main 2, place this card in your drop area. If your opponent played a card or placed a card in their energy using a skill at any point during the game, you choose one of those, you choose 1 energy and place it in its owner's drop area. This is kind of a catch-22. You're disrupting your own plays to get rid of 1 of their energy. So if you know that they're trying to build up to X number of energy to play a big winning card, and you don't want them to be able to play that next turn, you could use the Dende to get rid of the energy. But otherwise, I feel like it's a little disruptive to your own strategy just to slow them down 1 turn, when you could theoretically use that 2 energy to complete a swap or go into a Ginyu and disrupt them other ways. But, you know, this card is still really good, and I'm considering taking it out. There's not too much in our local meta that relies on objection or the Universe 2 energy ramp or anything like that. So as of right now, there's nothing here that I really that happens in our area that I think Dende needs to be played for. Though with Gogeta, Shenron Gogeta gaining popularity, this card will probably become better and better, considering they do utilize objection. So we're going to keep it for the time being. I'm going to test it out against some of the local meta and see what happens. But for right now, we're going to keep it at 3. I might go to 4 at some point. Kind of other techie things that happens. We've got 2 Furthering Destruction Champas. These are combos. You pay 1 for 10,000. The card that you're comboing onto gains 10,000 and double strike for the duration of the turn, or for the duration of the battle. I'm so sorry. But this is awesome for kind of coming out of nowhere and beating your opponent when they think that they've got 2 life to play with, and then you drop this and super combo, super combo, super combo this. You know, you've got a 50, 60,000 attack card that's going to double strike. It sometimes will catch your opponent off guard. Absolutely love this card and wouldn't change it for the world. So we do run 2. Kind of on the pseudo super combo side, we've got the Unbreakable Super Saiyan Son Goku. This is another one that I think could easily get dropped in favor of other tech choices. It's a pseudo combo. You pay 1, get 10,000, draw a card. I get why it's in here, but this could easily be another Furthering Destruction Champa. You could play other cards that kind of defend yourself or cater the deck to other meta cards versus your local meta. So you don't have to necessarily play them, but I do like a 4 set of in the deck. Kind of into Overwhelm and the last of the battle cards, we play 2 of the Supreme Kai of Time Light's Guide. These guys are amazing anytime you're running a blue or red leader. It's a free 15,000 card that comes onto the board for Overwhelm 3. You draw a card, then pick one of your leader cards, and it gains 10,000 or it gains 5,000 power for the turn. This is just extra pressure on your opponent. You could absolutely play a Scientist Fu or a Banisher Fu or even a Mira, but this gal is free. It's draw, it's pressure. There's no reason not to play it. I love this card in this deck, and this is actually quickly becoming one of my favorite Overwhelm cards, specifically when your opponent or when you are playing red or blue. So we do play 2 of those. That's it for the battle card package in the deck. Then we do play 3 of the Paralysis Technique. These are awesome for defending yourselves. It's a pay 1, negate the attack. Then you choose all of your opponent's leader cards and battle cards. They gain they lose 5,000 power for the duration of the turn. So it's an awesome way to prevent a push if your opponent is going for a big push, or if they swarm and they're trying to swing at you with a bunch of 15,000s and trying to get over your leader, or a bunch of 10,000s before you've awakened. This guy could be at 4, but you really only need it at 3. I've had times where this is in my hand and I don't really feel the need to play it or use it to defend myself. Most of the time I will end up using this as a ditch effort to defend any part of the Frieza cycle if they become threatened. The next kind of, I'm sure everyone saw this coming. We've got the blue package of the 4 Sensu Bean, 4 Whis' Coercions. I think right now, my tone on this has kind of changed over the last little bit, but I feel like this is the thing that's wrong with the game right now. Everything feels this need to play a splash of blue to get that Whis' Coercion, to get that Sensu Bean, and this deck is no exception. They're incredibly good cards, and I personally think that like red, green, and yellow need their own variation of Sensu Bean that does something and retaps 2 energy throughout the turn. Though we're starting to see cards in each set that kind of punish the use of Sensu Bean, so I'm hoping that there's a balance that comes along there that kind of prevents people from doing that. But this deck does utilize this. It's the only bit of blue that they play in the deck, so theoretically at any given point you charge 1 Sensu Bean, and then from that point on you have access to Sensu Bean and Whis' Coercion for days. Plus playing a Sensu Bean can get you into parts of swap or Ginyu that you wouldn't have had otherwise, so I get completely why it's played, but I just wish that other colors had an alternative without having to splash blue in. Because this deck really loses something for having to take a turn to play a blue card to make sure that it has access to Sensu Bean. Like I said earlier, Frieza and Armies Reborn, that goes from being a turn 5 play to a turn 6 play if you're going to play it at all. The swap parts, you really need to make sure you're at turn 2 or 3 before you even play a blue card. Otherwise, you're not going to be swapping consistently. I don't know. I see why it's here. It's really good. It makes the deck better. I'm not going to say that it doesn't or that it's needless. I just wish there were alternatives for other colors that could run monocolors, or we could see more interesting variations rather than things being U red or U yellow or vice versa. I just want to see other alternatives to Sensubin and Whisa's Coercion out there. But that is my Frieza Metamorphic Threat deck. This is a little bit more in line with what people have been doing with it. I'm going to continue playing with this and refining and trying to make it my own thing. Bancroft really loves the swap engine, so he's been playing with this deck a lot. I think it's amazing. I've said in past videos that I'm going to do something with Hit. I promise that I'm going to do something. I'm just kind of at a loss for what to do. I don't want to do another vanilla Shenron deck that just focuses on playing Hit. I want to do something special with it and something fun. So stay tuned for that. If you want to see us do any other deck profiles or duel videos, make sure to let us know. We'll literally try anything. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate all the love that you guys show. Make sure to leave us feedback. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe, like the channel, leave your feedback, let us know what you'd like to see. We're happy to oblige. And as always, stay fluffy.